Oh, landmines and gentle melons. Welcome back to Curiosity Forge. I am the Curiosity in the Forge. Today, I know what you're thinking by seeing this background, but I'm going to throw you a curveball. Today I'm going to participate in the Stanley 199 challenge. And what this is you take one of these Stanley 199 box cutters or utility knives or whatever you want to call them and dress them up. Now everybody else has been running 199As, and those have a much better casting than the B, but they're covered in a thick layer of gray paint. And I thought I was getting one of those, but I got one of the 199Bs. And problem with that is the casting ain't that good. Whole lot of flashing, whole lot of issues, and a bunch of pits. So this is going to be a cleanup to the best of my ability and really a platform to see if the idea I have for this pans out, because I think I got something that no one else is going to be doing. And it's not a huge challenge, but it looks like fun. And if you want to know more about it, check out Scout Crafter's channel. That's where I first heard of it. And Scout Crafter, if you are not aware, if you are interested in antique, old tools and the history behind them, definitely worth your time to check out. He focuses on old tools, 1800s to World War II, sometimes a little newer. And he goes through, gets them all cleaned up, gets them back to looking like brand new, and explains some of the history, when they were manufactured, who made them, the nature of the company that made them, all that. And if you're like me and you like those just little chunks of history getting thrown out there while you're watching something interesting, wonderful. You know, and you can also learn to take something like this and transform it to something like this. And this is one that I did myself from what I learned watching Scout Crafter, and that's not as complete as he does it. You know, he likes to go through with the belt grinder and clean everything up, get rid of all the pitting. Whereas number one, I don't trust myself with a grinder that much. I know what my history is. And also, I do like leaving the age and the work showing on the tool, but get rid of all the patina covering it, the dried grease and rust and crap that I don't like, and makes it unpleasant to handle the tool, because I clean these up to use them in my shop. But these videos are supposed to be really short, so I'm going to drop this here. First thing I'm going to do is go out into the shop with the 800 grit on the 2x72 and try to clean up these issues with the flashing, and then take it to the buffing wheels and polish it up. Okay, so here we are after the 800 grit polish, and this is never going to be perfect. It was cast way too poorly, but everything is much cleaner. It looks a lot better, and it's way shinier, so it's going to be a lot faster and easier to polish up on the buffing wheel. If I would have gotten the 199A, I wouldn't be dealing with this bad casting, but you work with what you got. But I'm going to go ahead and fire this up, and then we'll come back once this is all done and it's ready to be cleaned off with acetone. And now for the awesome, mind-blowing power of what I suspect may be 3,800 rip'ems. Okay, so you can see how well that's been cleaned up. I'm really happy with how that's going. Phone just hiccuped on me. So I'm going to keep this up and come back when it's time for the next stage. Alright folks, this is where the interesting stuff starts to happen. I've got some 2-part resin epoxy that I have pigmented. And I'm going to see if I can't paint in some details on this to make them look how I want. I'm not sure I've seen anybody else attempting anything like this. So the first thing I'm going to work on is these big areas right here and see what that takes. And if it goes well enough, then I'll work on these three smaller areas here. Just depends on how this goes. I've got Q-tips and acetone right here to clean up any stuff that gets out of control. And hopefully this goes really well. And dripped on the table. I'll get this done, and then I'll come back many hours later after the epoxy dries. Everything's going okay so far. Sit rep report. The epoxy resin has gone in decent, but it's way harder to control than I planned. So I'm not going to work on getting into these areas because it's going to completely screw up the first paint job. But this is becoming the most tedious thing I will have done in months because I got to sit here and catch these runs as they drip out because it's a rounded face. But other than that, it's coming out kind of how I wanted. So yeah, I'll be back eventually when this is dry enough to put back together. And here we have my Stanley 199 challenge entry. And you can see the epoxy has left a nice glossy shine on the recesses. Unfortunately, it turns out that painting with epoxy is a little bit more challenging than I expected. If I had more practice with this, I could have gotten into these low spots like here. I really wanted to get the Stanley logo done up right, but that wasn't in the cards. There's a little bit more to this than just this glossy shine. So, you know, the neat thing with the resin is I have created basically that. And unfortunately, the camera's not showing it glowing completely all the way through very easily. Just too dark for it to pick up. I'm going to try one thing real quick. Okay, darkening up the room some more may have helped, but both sides, like the whole thing is lit up and glowing here. It's just not really showing on camera too well, which is a shame, but that's okay. This was the idea I had for the 199 challenge because I didn't think anybody else was making them glow in the dark. So there you have it, folks. And that was my Stanley 199 challenge utility knife. The bad is it didn't come out quite like I'd hoped. I was hoping for a little more opaque on the epoxy, and I was hoping for a bit brighter of a glow. And I was hoping to paint the Stanley, the number 199, and the blazing side boxes with a contrasting color. I had some, I believe, orange and yellow set aside to mix together. But, like, that's how opaque this is in the cup. Painted on here this thin, it just shows up as a clear gloss, which the clear gloss looks cool, and it's going to keep grit from getting caught in there. You know, and the good, and there's a lot more good than bad with this. The good is it came out nice. It came out looking fairly finished. This is the first time I've used a belt grinder on something like this to clean a surface up because, again, my track record is the belt grinder gets out of control and I wind up taking off way too much material. So I took a page out of Scout Crafter's playbook and used a fine grit aluminum oxide belt and just polished and took my time with it, and that worked out great. So I learned something there, and the idea panned out. You know, not what I expected, but it panned out. And you know, it's pretty cool to have participated in that, and now I got an interesting tool that no one else has. So that's what I have for today. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for subscribing. Thank you so much for being interested. Remember, please stay safe in your shops. You are the softest thing in there. And with that, praise the forge and pass the borax. I will catch y'all later.